Up next, a brand new episode of Paths to the Present with a brand new look. Keep watching. Hi, I'm Gail Street, and welcome to Paths to the Present. Today's show features a tiny pre-Civil War African-American settlement that was the subject of a Black History Month exhibit. We'll also highlight a preservation success story in Clarksburg. But first, let's do our history quiz. Today's quiz asks, what happened here? We're at Riley's Lock, situated along the C&O Canal next to Seneca Creek. During the 19th century, an important industry operated just across the creek. These are its ruins. What was this, and where can we still see its product today? Think you know? Stay tuned. I'll give you the answer at the end of the show. We begin today's show with a segment we're calling Success Stories, where from time to time we spotlight a recently renovated historic property in Montgomery County. Our focus today, Green Earth Goods in Clarksburg. Today, this building houses a successful store on Main Street in Clarksburg. But if you saw it only a few years ago, you might have thought, when will that eyesore be torn down? Thankfully, it wasn't, because it holds a connection to our past.
Well, this building was an Indian trading post originally, dating back to 1755. It was built by John Clark, the founder of Clarksburg, and it was at the crossroads of two Indian trails. So it was a perfect location for an Indian trading post. About 1800, John Clark died, and the property was given to his daughter and her husband, at which point they made it into a general store. It has always been a general store since then, up until it was abandoned in 1969 when the last owner died. And the other thing that's interesting about it is that this is still the oldest standing post office in Montgomery County. It was the second oldest in Montgomery County to be built.
That's Nikki Lewis, who came up with the idea to turn this property into an organic market.
I offer food, I offer a lot of produce, organic healthy skincare, organic clothing, so it's really a general store in that way. One of the main things I offer also is local products. I offer from small vendors who are locally produced cheese, meat, eggs, milk. I have coffee and bread, and being a small store, I'm able to really focus on local vendors, and that's been a really nice fit for us.
Nikki acquired the building in 2005. Given it had been abandoned for nearly 35 years, there was a lot to be done.
What I was facing was a foundation that had to be completely rebuilt to meet modern code in order to open up. A building that had never had water, never had a bathroom, no sewer, no electric, no heat, no insulation, a hole in the roof the size of about 4 bathtubs, and a hole in the ceiling about the size of 4 bathtubs. So it was really, I think, very close to just tipping over. I think a good wind would have taken it. Fortunately, they built things better back in those days, so it had a little bit of structural integrity.
It took 3 months to remove the tons of junk that had accumulated over time. Then came 6 long months of construction to bring the building up to code.
Then there was a game plan. First thing foundation, second thing walls, beams, and all of that just came together kind of in a natural way. As long as we stayed focused and I could keep my crew working hard and focused, then things started to happen all of a sudden at the end, as typical with any restoration or renovation. All of a sudden you've got a stone worker and you've got a mason and you've got a carpenter, and it just sort of started to come together.
Throughout the process, Nikki worked hard to retain the historic feel of the building. That's why this interior wall is exposed, where one can view what was probably John Clark's handiwork, and why many of the original fixtures have been preserved: the tin ceiling, the exposed brick, the shelves and counters. All help remind us of the store from long ago. Green Earth Goods opened on December 15th of 2006. Since then, it has become a fixture in town. But it's not just a successful enterprise, it's also a successful restoration. The following year, Green Earth Goods was recognized for excellence in renovation by Montgomery Preservation, Inc., something Nikki really appreciates.
When they called and they said they wanted to nominate me, and it was really, really nice. I mean, you feel like, wow, I did all this stuff and somebody noticed. So it was great.
Nowadays, few people have heard of Lyttonsville, much less know the significance it holds in our history. That's why members of the community joined forces with the Historic Preservation Commission to create an exhibit on Lyttonsville's past. As part of Black History Month, the show was displayed at a local community center. In case you missed it, here's a recap. They say a community is more than the structures that house the residents, or educate the children, or offer a place to worship. It's also the people that call it home. And so it is with Lyttonsville, a formerly African American settlement established before the Civil War. Today, nothing remains of that original village, but its history endures through the collective memories of families who have lived there for generations. To bring that history to life, the Gwendolyn Cofield Recreation Center hosted an exhibit to spotlight this often overlooked community. Longtime resident Charlotte Cofield helped organize the show. If that name sounds familiar, it's because her sister is the community center's namesake. Charlotte describes how the exhibit has been received.
People come in and look at this exhibit and they can relate to their families and their background, and they know people who are shown in the exhibit. So it's been a very positive thing, and it's interesting. A little kid came in and he says, "Oh, my uncle is over there. He's on the baseball team." So things like that really it makes it nice. But overall, it's been very well received.
While residents like Charlotte played a pivotal role in creating the exhibit, members of the county's historic preservation staff lent a hand. Susan Soderberg, public historian for Montgomery County, helped with the historic research.
Well, Lyttonsville started when a freed slave by the name of Samuel Lytton was given land by his former owner, and he built a house here. He had a farm, and he raised his children who stayed in the area, and other black people started moving in. As more and more African American families moved into the area, they formed a church. And actually there were two churches in this community, one Baptist and one Methodist. And after they formed the church, they formed the school. They had the children met in the church until they could get a school building built. And that's the way most of the communities started in Montgomery County as well.
Charlotte's family has lived in Lyttonsville for 3 generations. Life was very different when she was growing up.
The Lyttonsville that I remember was very rural, country. We did not have paved streets. We did not have running water. We were a close-knit community, almost like a big family. We knew each other. Everybody knew everybody else, and we sort of looked out for each other. And we felt safe in the community. Where Rosemary Hills is now was a blackberry patch. We would go there to pick blackberries. Where the school is actually situated was the baseball diamond for the Linden Black Sox, and that was our community baseball team.
Through photographs, artifacts, and newspaper clippings, the rich history of this 65-acre neighborhood in Silver Spring was brought to life. A prized possession is the original deed signed by Leonard Johnson, giving Samuel Lytton the land that started it all. Panels displayed various aspects of life in Lyttonsville: community events, education, and worship. Residents attended one of 2 churches. There was Mount Zion Methodist, originally located on Georgia Avenue, and Pilgrim Baptist, originally on Brookville Road. In the beginning, the children got their education at Pilgrim Church. In 1917, a two-room schoolhouse was built nearby. It was a segregated school, which Charlotte attended through the 7th grade.
The schoolhouse did not have running water, did not have plumbing, and they had outdoor privies. So we had to go outside. We had no recreation activities there. We were sort of isolated as far as location goes. The students, the kids had to go to Brookville Road, which was a block away, to get water to bring back to the school. We had books that were passed down to us with pages missing and answers written in. We had furniture that was handed down to us with markings on it, carvings on it. We had no, I'm not sure of the word, but we knew that we were not getting what we should be getting, even in the academic sense of the word. But we were not in tune with what was going on in the outside world, outside of the school and the community, the way we should have been.
Beginning in the 1970s, urban renewal came to Lyttonsville. Members of the community fought long and hard to bring improvements to their neighborhood. That's when many of the substandard houses were torn down and replaced by new modular homes. But that's not all.
We eventually got water and sewage in, and that was a big change. We were able to get, well, we always had electricity as far as I can remember, but the water and sewage was a big problem. It so happened that my family home had a well in the house, so we did not have to bring in water, but most of the people brought in water, and we were able to get telephone, and we did not have to plow through mud and gravel to get to where we were going.
Not all the residents could stay. Some were renters and couldn't afford a home. However, the opening of Friendly Gardens, a nearby low-cost housing development, allowed some to remain in the area. The exhibit covers all of these topics, and it presents a special tribute to Gwendolyn Cofield, who worked tirelessly for the community she loved.
We have one panel, one collage of photographs showing photographs of her work in the community and at the community school. And it shows how the community all came together to support activities. The community school really started from the grassroots level too, to meet a need as we entered into integration.
Today, Lyttonsville looks nothing like it did in the old days. The 65 acres are a mixture of all types of housing, both old and new, with light industry lining Brookville Road. Given how much has changed, Charlotte feels an urgency to tell the story of her home.
Oh, I think it's very, very important. It's a good idea to let the young folks coming through today know whose shoulders they stood on to get to where they are. And a lot of them don't appreciate it because they're not aware of the history. So we'd like to get that especially out to the young kids.
So have you cracked today's history quiz? We asked the question, what operated at this spot near Seneca Creek along the C&O Canal, and where its products can be seen today? The Seneca Stone Cutting Mill operated here from 1774 until 1900. Men worked long hours to mine the red sandstone, which was used in many local structures. Riley's Lockhouse, the Seneca Schoolhouse, and St. John's Church are just a few that are still around. Probably the best known is the Smithsonian Castle in Washington, D.C. Well, that's all the time we have for this show. If you have comments for us or ideas for future shows, send an email to paths-present@verizon.net. Be sure to tune in again next time when we feature Clara Barton's home in Glen Echo. See you then.